As you crest around the surface of the planet, you start to get the corona of sun rising with what would be dawn from your perspective around the top of the planet. But from it, gazing into its beauty, you start to notice a strange, almost colorless light, like the northern lights, riding through the sky, moving almost as a two-dimensional form. This is ground control. This is Houston to Valentino Ride. How is your status?
Houston, Station 1. I see some lights. There's some abnormal activity happening.
We've had people experience a strange visual phenomenon before. Just stay calm, stay alert. You'll be fine, and it will pass. Perhaps check and see if there's any kinds of oxygen deprivation. Make sure all your systems are in order.
Houston, it seems as though the lights. It seems like a trick of the light.
Valentina, we can't reach you. Valentina, over. Valentina, Lieutenant Ride. And then this light came closer and closer and closer, and then it moved through the craft itself. And you feel it as you felt it move through your body. You felt as if your vital essence from the core of your being was irradiating outwards. You felt as if you were moving to explode. You felt every atom in your being vibrating with this light, these shapes, these colors, these patterns, and this vibration burst you into a point where you were no longer just inside of the shuttle. Your atoms merged with the shuttle itself. Your atoms went beyond into space. You felt the coldness of the vacuum touch the very fibers of your being, and your mind existed in so many states at once. You could see and feel below you the thousands of millions of consciousnesses on the face of the earth, the living, breathing throb of the planet itself. And you felt your atoms and your essence starting to expand and scatter beyond into the stars themselves. But something called you back.
Well, Tommy, of course. I couldn't leave Tommy. He'd just be lost without me, you know? I had to come back.
That one single thought was the turning point that caused everything to come colliding like an implosion back into a single epicenter that was your physical form. And the chatter came back in, which was just, Valentina, Lieutenant Ride, looking at your hands, tracing through the air, these rainbow patterns just tracing behind. Valentina, Lieutenant Ride, Valentina, Lieutenant Ride, this is Houston, over. Do you copy?
Houston? I'm here? I'm here. I'm here. I'm back. I'm here, Houston. I'm here.
At 3 o'clock in the morning on the 16th of November, 1966, a strange light descended from the sky to the waters of the main storage reservoir in Macau. The next morning, a severe depletion of the reservoir's water level led a small group of divers to explore its depths. Here, they discovered a deep channel covered with strange carvings which had seemingly appeared out of nowhere. News quickly spread, and it was this phenomenon which called a recently formalized branch of Interpol into action, Division 9, also known as Otherworld Agents. At 6 o'clock in the morning on the 18th of November, one full day before the official start of the Grand Prix, you come into a private section of what is the public airfield, the international airport, and you are upon the tarmac itself. There is a limousine waiting to meet you, and a smartly dressed young man stands outside of the car and waves you down. He's a local, and he says, welcome to Macau. Please, I am here to take you to the hotel where you can drop your gear before starting assignment, unless you would like to go straight to location, and then we can have the gear sent to the hotel if you prefer.
I would appreciate the chance to freshen up.
Very well. Please come in. Welcome to Macau once more. And he opens the door for you guys, and you get in. A attendant from the airplane, so that loads all your luggage into the back, along with your additional equipment.
Is anyone watching our plane arrive at the airport aside from Chet?
Give me a spot hidden roll as you survey the environment.
No.
That's a crit.
Okay, cool.
Also crit. Yeah.
Okay, wow.
Also crit.
Jeez.
Wow.
I'm glad some people with two
I
eyes
rolled
here.
4 somehow.
So as you're standing, or as you descend the plane and you're coming down, and you just glance around the ambience of the environment, but from the Hotel Grand Prix where you are staying,
Which is where we're going to.
which is a large, stately building that, along with the 3 or 4 other casinos that are built in the area, form one of the main features in the skyline. And from one of the balconies, you espy the signature glint of either binoculars, a telescope, or a gun sight. You're not sure which, but your quick deduction says that you are outside of range of anyone attempting to shoot you with a rifle.
Ladies and gentlemen, it seems someone has an interest in our arrival.
Interesting.
And of course, this conversation is happening as you leave the airport and start cruising through the streets. Even at this early hour, you hear the signature sounds of Grand Prix car engines roaring away in the distance. And as you move through the streets, you see the hubbub of people. Many of the roads to certain areas are actually blocked off, and you're not able to access a lot of them. However, Chet comes through and waves your press passes, and they usher you through some of the actual roadway area, because Grand Prix hasn't started. The only people doing laps are people doing trial laps, just testing out the racetrack itself. And so they're able to cut off an area, and you're able to get through and get to the Hotel Grand Prix with greater expediency. But you do pass a bunch of other very aquiline looking vehicles with their covered wheels, brightly colored with people driving them. You see a great variety of cars. This is still an amateur event for the most part, even though it is turning into a big spectacle, and rumors have been circulating on the horizon for the last couple of years that it will likely turn into a full-on professional event soon. It's not brokered into that, and it's still open for independent people to enter into the race, so long as obviously they jump through the registration process. So you see a wide variety of cars of really different types, but all souped up to the best of their ability, sort of just zooming down the track. A couple of people off to the side, people in their signature leather jumpsuits and helmets, talking over to people just who are crowding up against the barriers looking for autographs. You see a couple of press groups taking photographs, taking notes from interviews, a few tourists running around with 16mm film cameras. Lots of people, and the casinos are bustling. Even at 9 o'clock in the morning, as it is right now, there are people sort of moving in and out, getting ready for the day, and the revelry is really filling the streets. It's quite a carnival atmosphere. As you finally arrive at the hotel, driving into the front room, Chet quickly talks to the valet and arranges to wait here at the front as you guys move in and check into your rooms. He says, we got you 5 rooms, but they're all big enough. They've all got 3 suites in them each. So, if you all want to stay in one room, there's enough beds, so you spread out as you like. Here are your papers, and he hands you a little envelope that has all your reservation details.
I was actually wondering if you wanted to share a suite. Obviously, we could have separate rooms, but it might be nice to have some companionship. But I understand,
I think I'll take my own suite for now.
Okay.
Also, Julian, you seem a bit excited.
I mean, I've never had the chance to come to Macau before. I did play with a guy in Monaco, though, who said the casinos here were absolutely world class. They do have a reputation for a reason.
As do you, Julian, as do you.
Yeah, all good things, all good things.
I've recently become much more interested in the randomness of these chance-based games. I might join you if you decide to play.
I mean, it depends. We may need to find you a
Oh yeah, of course.
You know,
They're being discreet.
Yeah, you know, I'll need a dinner jacket. We'll get you a wig thing, but a wig and a little makeup, and it'll be yes, I think so.
I try not to wear makeup these days. My skin reacts poorly within.
I see. Well, you know, we'll try some interesting hair and
There's
and go from
absolutely
there.
nothing a burqa can't fix.
Actually, turbans are quite fashionable, I hear.
Very true.
But it's true, and you see people from all over here. There are definitely Sikhs and lots of Indian people, lots of because it's not too far away. You see Saudis even. Julian Smith Sinclair recognized the distinct disposition of many grifters who wander through this hotel, trying to make the most of this mid-profile sporting event. From what you can tell of the color of the lay of the land socially, guys, and this is everyone, because this is an upcoming event, really on the verge of making it big, there's a lot of young bloods, both in press and in racing teams, who are really trying to come in here and prove their mettle and using that as a launch pad to get into the international circuit. Because in the next few years, if this goes into a pro event, they can be on the ground, being the people who are either covering the event or the prime teams who are racing in the event. That could catapult them to international stardom as sports reporters and on other tracks. How do you present yourself at the moment, Valentina?
Oh no, I'm probably in like the same uniform I was wearing before, so
Okay.
not
Do
disguised.
you attempt to cover your head at all? Do you wear any head coverings?
No.
Okay. People do kind of...
Could I have attempted to address that before we got somewhere?
Of course. You have plenty of time on the plane over and in the limousine.
As we sort of move into the limousine, I realize you're not covered. I sort of go to the disguise bag and say, seeing as we're moving into a public space, I think maybe a change of attire might be more appropriate, so we do not attract unwarranted attention in this heightened environment. There's a lot of media about it at the moment. We do not need that kind of spotlight during this mission.
Yeah, she's smart enough to agree.
But this is a highly
I mean,
multicultural
common
area.
sense says so, but I prefer to do it myself, really, if you could give me some instruction.
I have a caftan with a matching headscarf that could cover.
I'm worried
That
about...
would be very helpful. I would very much, I would appreciate it if you could help me attire myself in this way.
Well, I mean, I think the full hog is probably the best way to go. So something like a burqa, which causes a complete facial hide, will definitely deal with the majority of your bioluminescence.
The discoloring is very subtle, especially in daylight. It's just as soon as you
It's
get
just
into
the lack of hair that's weird.
yeah,
think
the lack of hair is...
Large sunglasses. That should go.
Hey, look, the head wrap is an elaborate head wrap is all the rage in
So
for
I'll
60s
allow,
women.
yeah, Susan can help me put my hair up, and I won't let you disguise me, but I'm happy to use your disguise kit and follow your instructions.
I think definitely a full head scarf wrap around the neck, very summer look in this way, and then a pair of very large glasses, which are very much in vogue in the Fertile Crescent at the moment. Should give you a majority of facial covering, as well, still keeping you look a la mode, as they say.
Very chic. I think Princess Grace was wearing something not too dissimilar not long ago.
Maybe the same designer. My mother buys a lot of my clothes.
Susan, you're actually remarkably taken aback by the sheer amount of female attire that Agent Arthur Braithwaite has in their disguise kit.
Women, constantly underestimated, I tell you.
So you enter into the
benevolent of
hotel,
you, sir.
and in the morning sun and in the well-lit hotel, wearing the attire that you are, you seem to forego any significant eyes looking at you. I mean, eyes are looking at you more for the fact that you might be some kind of celebrity, especially with, you look very revolutionary with your
I was gonna say
military
dressed as a
attire.
celebrity now, like big
fashion.
sunglasses, something covering my head, and
Yeah. So you guys swan in, you grab your keys, you check into the room, or you grab your keys and you head to the elevator where you move up the lift. Upon exiting the elevator, you see one or two men dressed in plain brown suits, wearing mustaches and sideburns. They look not identical, but very similar to each other. And as they see you exit the lift, they sort of pass you on the way into the lift. Everyone who cares to can give me a psychology roll.
Nope.
5.
No.
Jeez.
That's crit.
That is
Cool.
a
I succeed.
great success.
Mine's a bit of a minor success.
Nope.
Just made it.
Huge.
Standard great critical.
Extreme.
So Susan and Valentina and Arthur, you notice them paying attention to you, but who got the critical? Susan?
Yep.
You notice that they seem to be paying more attention to you guys as a whole and not just paying attention to Valentina, which most of the other people were.
I'll wait till they're sort of out of hearing distance and those men were definitely distinctly looking at us as a group, not Valentina.
In a way, that's good news.
Then are they still in like?
Oh, they've gone there. So you left the elevator, they went into the elevator, and you move towards your rooms, and Susan drops this information as you approach the doors to your suite. The doors to the elevator close, and the elevator continues downstairs.
Is it carpeted hallway?
It is.
Is it deep carpeted hallway?
Yes, it's burgundy with gold highlights and
Can
the
we
occasional
see-
xanthan patterns.
At all, which room they may have come from?
Yeah,
No,
like
they
from
were
there.
already walking down the corridor when you opened the lift.
No,
doors.
no, with the impressions in the shag pile carpet.
Give me a...
The carpet is-
Deep carpet.
Okay, you can make either a spot hidden or a tracking roll. Up to you.
No.
I know.
Not too much spring.
Not a chance.
I will click the
I
elevator.
just missed my spot hidden.
Sorry. Valentina, what were you saying?
I just missed my spot hidden roll.
Oh, okay.
You can spend luck.
You can. You're welcome to spend luck if you like. But did anyone get a success?
I'm not gonna spend luck. I feel like this is one of those ones where I need a critical success for it to be worthwhile.
I got a standard success.
Okay. Look, it seems like that, yes, the carpet pushes down, but it springs back pretty quickly. This is very new synthetic fibers that this carpet is made out of. It's super top of the line, polyester everything. But you can tell that they were milling around in one spot for a while, but prior to that, you're not sure where they came from.
Yeah.
You do see that they put out a cigarette in the carpet.
I will go over, pick up the cigarette, and
Stop it.
All right, cool. Give
Where's
me
it from?
a spot hidden roll, please, to see if you can discern its make and brand.
I am on fire today. That is a critical.
Jeez.
Oh, that's such a good.
Yeah, it's
That's
camel,
great.
filterless.
Filterless camel import, obviously.
Yep, import from the States.
Relevant now.
Yep.
No lipstick.
No lipstick.
They were men, so presumably not as much lipstick on them.
They could have been
Not as
describing
much.
themselves as somebody else.
True.
Lipstick could change their color. No
Wait,
idea we
wait.
went up the elevator. Did they get off at the ground floor, or did the lift stop elsewhere?
You're not sure. As soon as the lift starts going down, it stops and starts. It stops and starts. You don't know where they're going. Regardless, you're at your suites, and you check in. Yes.
Check our rooms.
I'll give the rooms a once over. Actually, Braithwaite, you can.
I got the bug kit. I'll do the sweeps.
Yep.
Okay, so
speed.
Braithwaite, you can make a search roll, and you can have a bonus die on spot hidden for that.
That would be a middle success, the great one.
And it doesn't look like there are any bugs in any of the rooms.
Is there one of the 5 suites that is basically furthest away from the elevators?
Yep.
That I can park the
Essentially, your suites are all along one wall on the facing side of the hotel that faces the harbor and overlooks the racetrack. That's why it's called the Grand Prix Hotel. These are premium suites. The elevator comes up in the middle, and then you sort of come out of the elevator, turn right, and then go down towards a corridor that runs along the doors of the suites that then face on the other side of those doors out towards the Bay Area.
Okay. Valentina, you're second from the end.
I follow instructions. Sensible. I do tend to gain a lot of attention somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps one of the more experienced agents should go in the room next to hers.
Yes, I'll take third from the end. Captain, you can take the end of the hall.
I'll take the one closest to the lift.
As you are.
All right, cool,
And I'll take what's left.
awesome. Yeah, you are spotted across the thing, and your balconies. In fact, you can. They're not quite connected, but there is just a shallow lip that you could probably climb around with little risk if you wanted to go around from one to the other. Looking up and down from the balconies, it is possible for somebody on a higher balcony to get down to a lower balcony because they concertina out. So with one balcony here and then another balcony sort of comes out. So the whole building is shaped in a scoop, coming forwards and down to the ground floor.
Can I check my room for anything that seems like someone left it there, out of the ordinary in any way, or?
You all have a bowl of fruit and a bunch of flowers on the dining room of the central table. It seems to be standard fare for this place. With
Is
a little
there a
complimentary.
minibar?
There is definitely a minibar.
Has it been covered? Are we covered for this, or is
This
this
whole, all of these missions are all expenses paid. All room service paid for.
I'm going to start getting ready into my swimmers and a roby sort of outfit, more of a, day wear to go over to get ready because I need to be prepared. I'm getting my kits ready for testing and making sure I have everything at hand.
All right.
I'm going to call down to the front desk and
Yep.
let them know that housekeeping is not to come into any of the rooms during the stay.
Yep.
I'm going to try and see if the rooms above us are all occupied and below us.
Every room is occupied.
Okay, cool.
The agency must have worked through hell and high water to get these rooms vacated because these are prime rooms in this hotel during this period of time.
Yeah.
I'll also set up some small counterintelligence. So place things in the rooms that would be easy to bump or move.
Yep.
Ears on things, that kind of stuff. So you should be able to tell if someone passes through the room.
Yeah, of course. The standard sort of hair on the door, even just a folded piece of paper in the door so that you know it falls out when it's there. Hairs are always good. People are less likely to notice them. But if these are people working in the intelligence community, they'll know what hallmarks to look for anyway. Whether or not they'll be able to do something about it is another question. There are standard slide bolts on all of the balcony doors on the inside.
What day of the week is it?
It's a Friday.
Okay. So Valentina's probably like watching pretty standard like Friday evening. Is it evening? Television?
Yeah, there are TVs in all the rooms. That's correct.
Yeah, so the news probably followed by like kind of variety show, kind of that kind of style of TV. And while she's doing that, she's going to find the Bible that's usually in a hotel room.
Yep, there is one.
Yeah, and she's going to use her read object ability on the Bible.
Oh, the things that Bible has seen.
Just kind of curiously testing out, like she's only been in this state for 9 months. She's probably only been in control of her power.
Yeah, you've definitely you've done a lot of testing and stuff like
Testing
that.
out
That's
her
for sure.
ability.
But actually in the field, this is like your first job actually in the field doing it.
Yeah,
I feel
in a
confident trusting
non-controlled
you.
environment, just kind of like picking up this Bible from what was probably the bedside table or the desk in the area, and using her abilities to read it.
So you pick it up and you start flicking through the pages, and you realize that what you're doing is following the patterns of the last person who was looking at it. They seem to be a person who was very happy to be there. They were there with a loved one, quite possibly a spouse or a partner. And as they're looking through this book, they're doing it not so much to read the contents of the book, but the act of looking through the pages seems to calm them. Because in the background, on the telephone, their partner is yelling loudly a nondescript conversation with somebody on the other end of the line. The conversation seems to then transition into a state of urgency as the book is being put down, and the person then has to leave in a hurry and is distressed by that, but less distressed than their partner is by that.
I'm going to eat some of the fruit, have a good bit of water, get myself prepped.
I'm going to get some binoculars and watch some of the races and also do a bit of a pass over the other hotels that I can see.
Cool. Sorry, on the balcony. All right. Yeah, you look around. Look, the casinos are really what stand out on the skyline. As I said before, there's sort of 3 major casinos in the area. They seem to be all run by the same group. They must have monopoly on the casinos in Macau. Regardless, you catch like 6 or 7 smaller hotels of note. This is obviously the newest and most prominent hotel. Is there anything particular you're looking for?
Is there, while I'm passing the view over the hotels themselves, do I see anybody else also with a pair of binoculars looking at me?
Give me a spot hidden roll.
They're meta.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Hey, I got it!
I did it.
19. Normal success.
All right. So as you look around, you catch sight of a blink of the unique shot of the sun reflecting off of some binoculars, and you sort of look over and you double take. And you kind of just look carefully, and it looks like some kid. He's on the balcony of a hotel, and he's like taking the time. He's just looking up and down, looking in every window. Just really, he's into this. This is like his hobby.
Good fun.
Nice.
Or at least he's on vacation. Maybe he's on vacation. He is staying in a hotel, obviously.
Cool.
Sick of looking at the cars.
After I make a mental note, if I need to whack that kid later.
But it's not just that kid. You do see there are various telescopes and binoculars and tables and stuff laid out on a lot of the other hotel balconies because people are up there with binoculars and they're going to be watching the race.
Yeah.
Which starts tomorrow. And there's a big party planned for the evening.
The captain makes a mental note to buy a fast car sometime in the next 12 months before this thing gets, taken over.
Regardless, is there anything else that you want to do before you make your way to the site? And Chet's waiting downstairs for you in the limousine at the front door.
I think we're clear to go.
Yep.
Yep, check some equipment, get the kit together, and
Plus,
Head
I'm
down.
aware that we shouldn't leave Julian unsupervised near a minibar for more than 20 minutes.
if you mix orange juice, it's breakfast.
Cool. So you all rendezvous back at Arthur Braithwaite's room and double check your environment. Arthur pulls out a bit of bubble gum and makes 1 or 2 last security measures up on various points of his room before checking out, and you guys head back down to the corridor and catch the lift. You head down once more, enter the foyer, walk across, and you can all give me awareness notice, all give me spot hidden rolls.
No.
Yes. Regular success.
Just a regular
So Captain Stuart Murray and Julian Sinclair, you once more notice these 2 brown-suited men with the sideburns and the mustaches, and they're sitting reading newspapers on the far side of the room. They're in the bar area, just off of the bar and restaurant area, just off of the front registration desk.
The same men we saw before.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah, look, there are plenty of other people hanging out in the front bar area taking breakfast, and it does look like they have food in front of them.
I'll try to make sure I'll make it look like I haven't noticed them, but trying to remember what they look like with their dodgy suits and terrible facial hair.
Yeah, you take a mental image before you go out, jump in the limousine, and then Chet drives you off. He takes you in a roundabout way that manages to circumnavigate the most of the racetrack. As you come around the bend on the far eastern side of the island, you catch sight of the Fool Reservoir. It's a large, square-shaped reservoir, and in fact, even now you can see the site where the water line has diminished. You can see where the water had seeped in on the higher level, and on the far side, on the northern end, you can see that there is both a smaller garden and a small number of workhouses where there is like a little pier and you see a barge parked there. Chet drives you around and takes you through a gate and into a car park area, and you approach the barge. It's a large square-shaped thing that's set up mostly on, looks like it's asphalt laid over beams and wood and barrels that have been built up. It's pretty standard for this kind of arrangement. They don't want to pollute the reservoir with salt water, so they've built a custom craft in here. However, as a pontoon in a relatively undisturbed reservoir, it can carry a lot of weight, and as such there is a large crane mounted on top of it and a bunch of other gear that you had requested, including the scuba gear, the oxygen tanks, the radios that go down, and a lot of space on the barge just in case more equipment comes up. There are 2 cranes, one smaller winch-based crane just on a single arm that's about 3 meters that goes off to the side, and then one larger crane, which is an arm crane which is mounted centrally on the pontoon. On the barge. There, at the gate, letting you in, it looks like there is a heightened amount of security. You see Macau police force just stationed around the outside, and there are about 10 Macau police operatives guarding this site at the moment. And you still see a few people here and there who stop and look in through the fences at the reservoir. On the far eastern side of the reservoir, you see the boardwalk or esplanade that was talked about, which is just a concrete depression that drops down about 3 or 4 steps from the main sidewalk of the road that runs along the eastern side, and is a little seating area / open area where people can look in. But even without the water level going up to there, it's normally like a 3-meter drop down to the water level. Now it's like 8-meter drop down to where the water level currently is. And you arrive on site, and Chet is, parks limousine and goes, okay guys, so all of your equipment over here. We got everything that you asked for. All the scuba gear is here. I assume you know how to use it. If not, then we have somebody who I can show you. I was a dive instructor for some years. There are just skidoos there. And I was able to rustle up a diving bell, so we can get you down most of the way in a pressurized container, so you don't have to swim down, and then you can just move out from that diving bell and go straight across. We'll be able to take.
I'm going to collect some of the topsoil while he's talking to us, just as a baseline level for what we have here.
Yeah, cool. So you pick it up. It all looks like pretty standard volcanic rock for this kind of area, to be honest. Building up. The archipelago that sort of came out to form this area would have been caused by reasonably violent volcanic actions.
I'm going to take a few wide shot perspective shots of the area. There's not a lot I can see from here, but just a few, and then stash the rest of the gear in a Army Pelican case.
Yep. So you've got the cases, and then you have weighted bags that are waterproof, which you can use to take down additional equipment. So beyond the bags that you've already taken, there are extra sealed weighted duffel bags there that you can put stuff in to take down.
I'll divvy up guns into a couple of separate bags of the waterproof weighted ones.
Chet looks at you like a little bit concerned. So should I be worried?
No.
Never know when you have to shoot your way out of a rockfall.
He looks concerned and confused, but trust that you know what you're doing.
What's that over there? And then I put the explosive charges into some of the bags as well.
Nice.
I'll do a quick scan again just to watch for tails. I'm assuming we've been watched. I'm curious if we're trailed all this way out here.
Yep. So give me anyone who cares who has the ability, can make a tracking roll to see if you did have any tails as you were coming out in the limousine. A limousine is a remarkably easy vehicle to tail.
Standard success.
No success.
Okay.
Sorry, on 100, does it explode, or am I thinking?
No. 100 is just you don't see anything.
Epic fail.
It's an absolute failure.
Busy taking photos.
They also have a mini bar in the limousine.
Oh no!
No,
That
there
20
isn't.
minutes.
there are these Grand Prix girls on the foreshore, and they got these skirts, and it's
Yeah,
Just going
it,
through.
it all goes downhill from there. Regardless, you make your preparations and enter onto the barge. And the pilot there, you see, Chet introduces you to 8 other guys. He says, here are the initial agents who were sent out. These are all Macau Army underwater specialists, and they were the people who initially scouted down to find the entrance to the caves that are down there. Obviously, they were instructed not to go any further, and you're here to investigate that. I'm just here as a guide. These people are under your jurisdiction, and he introduces you. This is the head of the squad. So there's 8 frogmen there. The head of the squad is Sergeant Billy Tran.
Billy Tran, is there anything that you wanted to bring up that might not have necessarily made it into your report?
Permission to speak frankly, sir.
Frank as you like, son.
To be honest, this whole situation is rather unnerving. We don't know what's caused this or what's down there, and we hope you can shed some light on the subject, but I don't think it's the lighting display that they've been putting out in the media. It seems like more than that. I know this reservoir. I grew up here. There's never been a hole like that beneath it.
Quite possible that the lighting display might have been timed with a geological disturbance, which caused the hole. You often find that these events cause gravitational shifts. Have there been any troubles with the reservoir over time? When was the last time there was a geological sounding done of the under reservoir?
Not that I'm aware of. Feel free to give me a persuasion fast talk roll, please. Or fast talk.
15. Under 60. It's only it's a great but not a critical.
Okay. So he's like, okay, I guess so, and it could be that that disturbance has opened access to these cave networks. The strange thing about the cave networks is that they didn't seem natural, but we were ordered to come up pretty quickly, and we didn't spend much time down there. Our oxygen supply was running short at that point.
Pardon?
Our oxygen supply was running short at that point.
Right. What's the depth of these caves?
You'll find them about 20 meters down.
Right. Okay. All right. Well, we'll take a look. Likely that this is more the one of these natural geological disturbances. Those freshly seen caves, not touched in time, can truly look like an alien landscape. Most people don't get under to those depths of water caves which are untouched by the erosions. So I understand why it might have seemed weird. Lieutenant, anything for your observations in the area?
No. I saw nothing.
Okay.
Are any of the men who went down earlier having any sort of adverse effects to the water? Has the water quality changed at all? Or is it just...
No, we haven't noticed anything.
Has anyone changed shape in any way that you've noticed?
Sort of gives you a strange look. And,
floating!
Not that we've noticed, sir. Like, nothing particularly interesting. Nothing particularly... Everyone is fine. We are the people here on this site. This squadron, we were the people who went down to investigate, and we were the people who've seen this. Nobody else has witnessed what is beneath there, and we have no idea what it is that's down there.
Well then, let's get to work.
Curiouser.
You get suited up into your wetsuits. The frogmen have said, look, we're up here, we can take you down if you want, or we can just let you go down in the diving bell and you can see yourselves out. Chet's like, here's the radio, he instructs you on how to work it. He says the radio goes down in the diving bell. The diving bell will sit just outside of the cave. We'll position the pontoon, so the diving bell will go down on the cave side of the channel that's been carved out. And then you guys will go out, and there's a reel, and you take the reel, unhook it from the top of the cave, and the radio itself is in a waterproof satchel, and then you'll wheel it in, and then once you get up and break the surface, you can set up the radio at that point, and you'll be able to continue to spool it out from that. Well, you'll be able to use the handheld wireless device from that point. You can take that with you, and it's lighter.
All right. Thank you for the escort, son, but I think we should be able to see it down on the diving bell.
All right. Well, when you're ready, I'll send you down. The diving bell is reasonably cramped, but just big enough for the 5 of you to get in there and fit, with all your scuba gear on and a bit of extra gear. And you're all kind of just like huddled in, sitting there in the same spot. And he goes, all right, just checking, testing, breaker 1212, over. Do you read?
Yes, loud and clear. Testing 1 2 back.
All right, we're sending you down. You feel the diving bell break the surface, and then start to go down deeper, deeper, and deeper. And of course, as the bell is, it's open at the bottom, so you can swim out and come in, but it sort of goes deeper, deeper, and deeper until it reaches the appropriate height. It's like, all right, he's calling it 10 feet. It's going to 10 fathoms, 20 fathoms, 30 fathoms, 40 fathoms, 45 fathoms. We're going to slow down. You'll hit the point at 50 fathoms, 48, 49, 50. You look down below. The lights, the underwater torches that you have on the little skidoos, you sort of point down, and you're sort of looking out through the side of the diving bell, and even the sunlight is like reflecting off the sides. You can make out like the outlines of some of these same animalistic patterns that you saw emblazoned in the photographs from the light, these 60s style animal figures that sort of trace in outline these deep, murky depths. And as you focus your lights down, you see they just go deeper and deeper and deeper. No telling how deep this goes. The divers did not get to the bottom, and you're not sure how much farther it is. But you look out through the little window in the side of the diving bell, and you can see now the blackness of the cave and the light reflecting, filtering down through the water and reflecting off the surface.
Right, I'll go ahead. I'll grab a light and a spear gun, and one of my little waterproof baggies of tricks, and head on into the cave.
Okay, awesome.
Yep, I'll pair up with you. Lieutenant Ride, are you safe to deploy the radio?
You look over to Ride, and you've all been looking out the windows, and you look back to Lieutenant Ride, who sort of turns back to you, and they're wearing mostly like the fully enclosed wetsuit, so it's sort of like around the head. And as she turns back to you, you sort of see in the darkness now this sort of rainbow luminescence just trickling out from under her skin, giving a faint radiance in the environment.
That is very exciting.
I'm glad you like it. So, what was your question?
Are you okay to deploy the radio and swim down?
Absolutely.
Cool.
Excellent. I'll grab a harpoon gun then.
Cool. All right, and you go into silent mode as you all go out the bottom of the diving bell.
I'm a great swimmer, just by the way.
Yeah. All right, and you go out, like, unless you're, like with all things...
I'll keep an eye on Julian. He's never been great in pools that weren't also attached to bars.
I'm more of a paddler, really, but, I do okay.
Okay. You all seem, you've all had a briefing on how to use the scuba equipment. It's pretty straightforward for you guys on a simple joint. You're not trying to do any kind of a long, extended underwater exploration on this one. You're just trying to get from one point to another. And in fact, it's just a few meters across to where you see the cave, and you sort of like get the little skidoos, and it's very easy maneuvering through the water with the skidoos, just angling them, and a little bit of assistance from your flippers to get the right direction. And you eventually come up, and who's leading the way?
Captain Stuart Murray.
Okay. You have there's a slot on the skidoo for the spear gun to just mount into it, so you can hold on either side, and then you've also got the option to sort of let go and just shoot the spear gun. There's a little clamp that holds it in the middle. It's like you start coming in through the cave. The cave is reasonably wide, and it looks like it was once a larger corridor that continued out, possibly to a termination point that was once somewhere in the center of this shaft that has been removed by the energy that was witnessed by the public. But as it is, it continues along, and it moves from it's a rough almost triangular shape terminating across the top, kind of like it peters in with a flat floor, and it looks like it is in fact rough hewn. But as you move deeper into the cave off the side, the floor becomes straighter and flatter, and the surfaces more smooth, until you get to a point where you see what appears to be a set of stairs still underwater that raises up, and as you incline the lights from the scudoos upwards, you see the reflection, which is the telltale sign of oxygen on the upper side of that.
Okay, I'm going to signal for Braithwaite to stop, and I'll go up into the chamber.
I just want to clarify, do you have your eye patch on underneath your swimming goggles?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So when you take them off, it's still there.
Yeah. That's so good.
Thanks. All right, so you come in and you break the surface, Captain. Everyone else is like holding back and waiting. How are you approaching?
I'm gonna just basically, I'm going to go up very slowly and quietly. I'll turn off
Skidoo.
Yeah, turn off the skidoo and leave it floating in the water. I'll go up with the just the harpoon gun.
Okay, cool. So you leave it and it floats. They're essentially weighted so that they maintain weightlessness as you leave them where they are. And then you sort of head up, you sort of slowly come up, you start to reach the surface of that classic sort of frogman style as you sort of come out of the water, slowly, eyes coming up. The light from the skidoo casts an eerie blue-green reflection around the corridor as the stairs continue this oblong shape up into the corridor, and it seems to go up for maybe another 10 meters before it appears to go break from its ascension and start moving on a horizontal pattern again.
I will take the time then to switch over to the silenced 9mm instead of the harpoon gun, and I will dangle a hand back in there and do some signals.
All right, awesome.
So
what do the signals mean? You guys are military types. You can communicate quite happily between you.
Yep, I'll signal that it goes up for approximately 10 meters. I'm going on ahead, make landing.
Okay. Which includes setting up the radio, and along with the radio anchor, which has a little piton that sticks into any rock surface around, there is the oxygen tube, and you'll be able to radio up to get them to start pumping oxygen into this chamber, because there's no telling what the air is like in there. You are welcome to continue to operate on the oxygen valves that you have. It's only taken 10 minutes to get to this point, so you've still got 50 minutes of oxygen left in your tanks.
We need to test the air before we pump it full of oxygen just to see what the quality is like. Maybe it's got a different dynamic in here anyway.
Do you want sample or lungs?
Sample.
All right, well, you're doing this in hand signals, so you all come out of the water now because Captain Stewart's given the all clear. You all come out into the stairwell, and Susan Mitchell's like, keep the things on, and you
pull a litmus papery kind of thing, and and do a little bit of a test in terms of just quick, easy stuff. Light up.
Yep. So you're pulling it out, and it takes another 5 minutes to sort of get the basics out. but you sort of get the paper and you pull it out, and there's a dangerously high carbon dioxide ratio in this environment. So you're going to need to sit tight probably for about 10 minutes while this oxygen pumps into the environment before you take the canisters off.
Is there what's the look of the where we are currently? It's
Alright, I'd like you to give me an archaeology roll.
Yes, indeed. That is just a regular success, unfortunately.
Oh no, success.
Oh no, it's a little hard to see through the. Listen, I've got a field of vision about yay big, right?
Yeah.
The looking around, you sort of get the impression that the shape of the chambers, like this oblong shape, this very archetypical sort of the slanted in sides with the square top of the corridor, the vaulted sense of it, the height. Again, it sort of really reminds you of the early sort of steppe peoples, the Scythian burial mounds that you have seen being excavated. And it sort of gives you this very distinct feel of those shapes. However, because those were relatively close to the surface and very old, you've never seen an example of that kind of stylization brought to the grand scale that this had. Like even a corridor, it's only 10 feet wide, it's only 15 feet tall, but by comparison to the burial mounds and the structures that you've seen for a structure of that era, it's significantly, it's a very significant discovery.
I'm pretty pumped. I'm mask or no, I'm going to start unpacking my my photography equipment because this is already very exciting. Burial mounds might mean mummies, and
the other thing, you do notice that there are no carvings on these walls, and you are seeing that the walls go up. You examine them more closely. Give me one more archaeology roll, please, as you sort of look more closely at the walls themselves.
That is what's the middle success?
Great success.
It's a great success.
You look at the walls and you examine them more closely, and it looks like these walls were carved out by hand with chisels. Likely bronze chisels, based on the nature of the stone and what you can tell of the size of the tools that were being used. But it strikes you as odd that something this deep, because this is going way down now. And Susan Mitchell, well, you can't communicate these abstract concepts. It's more just like, still 10 minutes.
Queen going, oh wow, like this is clearly amazing formation, but and not not natural.
Yeah, you're at a period of sediment that would set this area. Look, give me a geology roll, sorry.
That is fabulous. That is a 5 over 75.
Damn.
Okay.
Critical success.
Yes.
You can, based on the way that these rocks have formed, this is a 20 million year old layer of sediment that has not been folded or disturbed in any other way. And this predates any known existence of any kind of bipedal mammal on the planet at all.
I'm gonna take one of the lights and head further up to where it levels off and just get a view of whether it's a corridor or something at the top of the steps.
And while that's happening, Valentina, I'm assuming you set up the radio and get the oxygen. Well, the oxygen tube was in place immediately and started pumping.
Yeah,
you just need
radio for the team.
Yeah. So you hit the beep beep. The radio has a bleep, like a blip function, as well as like a talkie function. You just hit up a couple of blips and they start the flow of oxygen. And you count down, and it's almost there. It's like 5 minutes later. The oxygen's been pumping in, and Captain Stuart Murray and Agent Arthur Braithwaite, you sort of get to the top of the stairs and are peering over. Julian Sinclair, you're like carefully studying the walls. Also, Susan, you're like, wow, you're both like, oh, look at this is amazing. But you guys get to the top of the stairs, and you sort of glance over, and you start to, and you see that the corridors shine the light over the top, and the corridor goes down considerable distance before it appears to open up into a larger chamber, a chamber so large that it swallows the light. What you do get is a couple of shapes scattered across the floor throughout the chamber, and from this distance you cannot make out exactly what they are, but you do get the light glinting off various forms.
All right. I'll hang at the top here, just in case something comes out. And Braithwaite, you can go fill in the investigators.
I'll put it back.
Okay, you guys wait the last of the 5 minutes, and then Susan's like, okay, fix you all. And the air is earthy. It is dusty a little. There is definitely dust in the air, as if things in this environment have recently been disturbed, and not just by you guys. And you sort of look around, and it's a little bit, but it seems more dry than dank in here.
As someone who's been in my fair share of tombs, crypts, ossuaries, that kind of thing, does it have that distinctive kind of crypty smell?
Yeah, it kind of does, to be honest, but it reminds you more of the dryness of the atmosphere. Reminds you much more of an Egyptian style burial site, because it just feels got that aridity to the air, like the oxygen's being sucked out of, or all the moisture's being sucked out of the air.
Ladies and gentlemen, there appears to be a much larger cave moving forward. The light is not necessarily shining all the way across. So I think we're in a much smaller part of a much larger complex. We're not sure exactly how far the room beyond goes, but it all appears very dry.
The sediment here is over, 20 million years old.
Pardon?
Over 20 million years old. The sediment here is so old, it predates bipedal life form by a long way.
So,
yet it all looked like it's been carved by hand.
Could they have
It looks like
carved
it's
down
been
into
carved
the
with
sediment?
tools that there's absolutely no reason for people to have had.
All right, so we're definitely looking at, this is not going to be a dud. There's something odd here.
Most definitely.
Okay. Lieutenant Ride, we've had two experts here give some pretty compelling ideas. Perhaps you can use your unique talents to elucidate, and we can put together some hypotheses.
Can't give you much help here, honestly. This seems like an ancient chamber. I think that our friends here have more expertise in this area than I do.
You can't get an impression for what it was used for or who might have been?
Sure, I can try. So I can.
That's all we ask for.
Sorry.
That's all we ask for.
So touch like the cave rock and the and kind of try and do a reading of them.
Okay, so you can get some impressions. Okay, so you sort of run your hand along the walls and let your energy flow. In this dark, cavernous environment, you see that as Valentina Ride touches the walls and her eyes half closes and she concentrates, you see that the luminescence of her body increases just a mild amount. But it increases, and it does, from that point, does not decrease. She just like runs her hand along the walls. Images start flooding into your mind. Images of figures moving through this corridor. This is a well-trodden corridor, and your eyes roll to the steps themselves, and you see the grooves of thousands of feet having trodden on this foot before. Solemn devotion fills the hearts and minds of the people who traverse this corridor, of the beings who were here. From their perspective, they see each other as equal. They have hands, they have feet, they walk, they move, but they have another appendage, one that you cannot place. They hold upon their body and in their belts tools and devices. They think about the walls and the painstaking labor that went into making them. They think about the honor that is done to that which they give their devotion to. Their clothes are simple robes, but well made, of a fabric that you do not recognize.
Can I get an impression of what they look like, or just...
The hoods and the robes, they have dark skin, pale palms. They have hands. Their hands have rough thumbs, much larger than your own. They have another appendage. You have the sense in your mind they have more than one, more than the standard 5 extremities.
Okay. So I kind of relate this to the other people, that they look like they're dark-skinned and have pale palms and definitely have hands that might be somewhat differently formed to us.
Yes.
And also that my impression is that the people who worked here were devout, and this seemed like some kind of spiritual pilgrimage of some kind, that what they chose to do here was out of a sense of faith and some kind of like devout belief, but I'm not sure what.
And she draws your attention to the steps themselves. You two now see the signature marks of steps that have been trodden 1,000 times. You were so distracted by the tool marks on the walls, Julian Smith, that you didn't even consider that these stairs and how well used that they are. Like the stairs of a monastery that you've seen once before, where people have walked up and down them so many times that they have slowly worn down.
It strikes me as unusual. This is shaped like Scythian entrance to a burial chamber, but there's no reason for a burial chamber to be frequented, after it's been used. This is it wasn't a place of pilgrimage for them. I admit a little confused about what purpose it would serve then.
Well, as a hypothesis, and I do not mean to tread on the feet of the experts in the room, but could it be possible this is a place of religion, worship, that would explain...
What it seems to me was that it was some kind of pilgrimage. It certainly had some kind of significance. Perhaps a martyr of theirs was buried here, but certainly many feet have trodden here, and this was a place where people were willing to give their labor for just their sense of belief.
Can I see any sort of biological sort of samples anywhere around on the ground, the walls, the ceiling, any sort of growth?
Give me a spot hidden roll.
Or do I spend some luck? I'm going to spend some luck.
All right, cool.
It's a little bit of luck.
A little bit of luck. If I can do maths, it would be even better. Yep. So a success.
So you're looking around, it's great, and you pull out so something that catches your eye, something so white. And you're like, what is that? And you pull it out, and it appears to be a scale of some type. Give me a biology roll.
Far out. I'm going to spend some luck.
Yeah, burn it up, baby. Burn it up.
There to be used.
It is there to be used. All right. So that is a success. Just a success.
Okay.
Yet again.
It seems like a single scale that would have been shed during the molting process of a large reptile.
Okay. I share my findings with the group.
All right. I'm going to change weapon into something a little more beefy, just in case this place home to some of the native crocodiles, perhaps.
So you said a white scale akin to like a large reptile.
Yes.
Stop me if I'm going out of bounds here, but the largest reptile I've heard anyone keeping around Macau is a Komodo dragon.
They would have been imported from Java as well.
Yeah. Standard exotic pet kind of business, but yeah.
Look, I would say, dinosaur-like in terms of the sizing, but, obviously the biological sample would not be able to survive that long from when dinosaurs exist. So, yes, I'm confounded as to what this is.
Okay, let's be open of mind but narrow of purpose, shall we?
The one thing that strikes you as most distressing about this, Susan Mitchell, is that this seems to be fresh.
Yeah, the fact that it's not you shouldn't be finding this sort of stuff that would be like I would consider in terms of like a hypothesis in terms of dinosaurs or larger sorts of creatures. The fact that this is fresh, this means that this creature could still be here now.
Perhaps, Lieutenant, this much more focused object might be of your skill set?
No, yes, I will do another read object on this item.
I will place it delicately into your hands with my tiny little tweezers.
Okay, so once more, power roll, please.
Oh no, I definitely passed that. Let me just check. 39 over 70.
Okay, awesome. So you find yourself in mild... The impression you get from this creature is that it is in mild discomfort because its skin is sagging, but in spite of that, it still wishes to return here like its many ancestors have before. Many eons ago, but it is returning here for the first time in a long time because the time is right to free those who have waited dormant for so long. And when they think about these things, when they think about these objects, they think about them like the fruits of their labor. And when they think about them, that you cannot wrap your head around the concepts they are conceiving of. Give me a Cthulhu mythos roll, just in case. Undersea.
Definitely have it. Oh, okay. Not very successful, no. 7 instead of over 20.
Shapes without form, images without light, creatures or entities without bodies, waiting to be released. And that is the purpose of this being. It has traveled a long way to be here. Ancient pilgrimage. Yeah, that's what you get from the scale. You also get that it has a tail.
Okay, share this. So when I said before they have an extra appendage, I feel like perhaps they have a tail.
It would be
and in terms of the pilgrimage here, it seems like an ancient pilgrimage that has to do with a legacy of some kind. There's some potential here that needs to be fulfilled. There's something that's awaiting resolution, I think.
Is it like a salmon in any way?
I mean,
I
Larry,
mean,
also
like when you, I don't know how it works for you, but does it feel like that kind of, is it compelled? Does it have to?
That's definitely true, yes. It feels like it has some genetic impulse to return to this place, like there's some kind of genetic inheritance that requires it to make this pilgrimage. And it's only once this pilgrimage is fulfilled that some kind of potential is realized. And until it is, there's all of these, I don't know, unfinished, unresolved, formless things.
Look, I don't want to sound particularly British, but I do not like unknown things fulfilling potential.
Oh, don't you? Nothing about your appearance suggests that.
No. So, let's, I don't see any flags down here for starters, so let's take a look here and put an end to whatever grand potentiality, whatever weirdness is going on down here, and bring things back into the right order, shall we?
Excellent. I bottle up my sample, get some more soil sample, and yeah.
Great. Shall we hit the chamber?
Absolutely.
All right. You move down the corridor as your lights move closer and closer to the main chamber. You start to get greater illumination on the objects that scatter the floor. You start to make out patterns, and as you approach the threshold of the chamber, the lights bouncing off the floor, starting to radiate up the walls, and again a large conical chamber moves up to the ceiling where it terminates at a flat surface at the height of the chamber. The walls are covered with the same kind of symbols, these images, but smaller than the giant ones that were radiating around the surface of the shaft that you came down itself, the underwater shaft. So that you can see them more clearly, and searing into your mind these ideas, these images of proto-creatures. The Sisypheans were noted for these culminations of real creatures, of dreamlike creatures, strange bird creatures with rolling, spiraling beaks. You see, as you look around the walls, beneath these carvings that are on the walls, and they seem to be again carved out in the same sort of chiseling, same rough hewn chisel pattern defines these shapes on the walls. But as your eyes pan down around the sides and beneath these pictures, there are smaller statues. Each statue seems to be made in shiny, dull silver metal, possibly a lead or a pewter, some kind of alloy that catches the light. It's polished in certain areas, but in other areas it's textured and patterned with some kind of tools, possibly hardened bronze, to create textures and shapes. And as you're looking around, you realize that the shapes that are on the wall, these forms, create almost impressions that radiate out and upwards from the positioning of these pewter-like statues. So where a pewter-like statue sits on the floor at the base of the wall, funneling up from that and exploding out from that in a radial pattern are these animal shapes. And as you look at them, you see that those shapes and the shapes of those creatures and those animals correlate to the carvings that are on the floor. Of the carvings that are on the floor, you notice that there are 12. Of those 12, you see that 5 of them are broken, shattered, as if a hard piece of tempered steel has been frozen and then smashed, sheared apart, not by an object, but by a force that has hit it in one location. But observing them from the outside, it doesn't appear that any external force has caused them to break. And then upon the floor, in the center of the room, you see the desiccated bodies of 3 creatures. You can all make sanity rolls for me at the moment.
That's a fail.
It's under sanity, isn't it?
It's equal to or less than your sanity.
Ooh, just
No.
Quite
That's
same,
it.
but I'm not now.
Okay, well, you can, if those who fail lose d6 points of sanity. Those who pass only lose 1 point of sanity. Valentina Ride, however, did you fail or pass?
I passed.
All right, cool. You don't lose
If
any.
we pass, we lose 1.
That's correct. Except for Valentina, who, if you pass, doesn't lose any because you have already had a sense of these creatures. And as you come into the room, that lingering sense of these creatures draws you to the bodies upon the ground, and you immediately feel that sense of these creatures and the sense of the one creature that you held the scale of, drawing you directly to one of the bodies that is upon the floor.
Okay, cool. I approach that body and then I read it.
I'm
Okay.
gonna move and basically cover Valentina as she's heading over that way, keeping an eye out for anything that requires shooting.
Okay, cool.
I'm gonna take some pictures.
All right. Flash erupts around the room, just lighting it up, and you get some really stark sort of contrasts on a lot of these images. As you do, I would like everybody except for Julian Smith Sinclair to make spot hidden rolls, please.
Failure.
Nope, failure.
Sorry?
Standard success.
All right. As the shadows flicker around the room, you swear you see movement in some of the carvings.
Julian, do we have the bright lights down here?
Yeah. I got the standing one right here. A little like,
Yeah, let's pop that up, shall we?
and it's a little quick whip out with a.
Yep.
And I've got my hands on the big boy guns at this point.
Yep. Okay, cool.
I also lost sanity, so I got twitchy eye.
Yeah.
I'm focusing on getting my sample containers out, but I'm feeling very uncomfortable, so I'm really focusing on that. It's kind of trying to ground myself back in. Breaths.
Yeah, the things that you can do. Focus on the things that you can do.
Yes.
You are also kind of drawn to these creatures, disturbed by them because they're large lizard bodies.
What they're made of.
But yeah, there is that scientific curiosity to you that's really drawing you to the body. So you and Valentina are both approaching. Valentina, as you get there, and also Susan, as you approach, you can see the figures, and originally you thought they were desiccated, but it seems like they have been just drained of moisture. Or possibly organs or something. Their skin hangs still damp but loose around their bones. You see that from the legs and the arms that extend from the central body mass. Covering the rest of their bodies are these loose, dark fabrics. And you see the belt that you had in your images with utilities hanging from it. A few strange objects sort of dangle down off the sides. And you look around and you see there's the three of them. They have each of them has a belt. They're all lying face down upon the ground. It looks like they have moved into this position from a point of kneeling. And in fact, the one at the front who was kneeling in the center of the room with the back to the corridor, the one who's still kneeling is sort of like completely crouched over with his hands clasped together under his chest and his head on the ground completely and his knees right up into his chest. He's basically in a fetal position, still kneeling on the ground upwards.
Do they look drained?
And the other two have sort of fallen off in awkward angles, but you can see they were initially in kneeling positions.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if they look drained as like recently drained, like exsanguinated blood flow sort of thing, or if they look like they've been here for a very long time. And by comparing the scale that I have, that fresh scale, to their actual scales now, whether or not there's a difference between that.
Yeah, no, it looks like they've been recently exsanguated.
Okay.
Are there any other... What chambers or what corridors or...
There are no other chambers leading off of this.
At all?
At all. This seems to be the termination of this, from what you can tell. And the floor is just a single sheer surface that's been carved out in the same way that the walls were in the channel that you came in. The only separate pieces of construction in this chamber are the remaining 7 unbroken pewter-like statues, which in and of themselves are about 3.5 foot tall each resembling a different creature. And the carvings behind them on the walls that elevate up to the circle in the ceiling, again, correlate with those statuettes. As you shine the light onto the wall, you're sort of looking around, and as the harsh light catches the walls, and it's just running off a little 12-volt battery that you've brought down with you, like a car battery, sort of shimmers off the wall. You start to see, in fact, shimmering movement from the shadows. So the light catches the shadows around the carvings in the walls, but then the shadows themselves reverberate. Give me a spot hidden roll, guys. Everyone? No, well, it would be Captain Stuart Murray, Julian Smith, and Agent Arthur Braithwaite, the ones who are observing the walls.
Standard success?
Standard success.
And
Julian?
I am just a regular success, yeah.
Okay. You guys notice this reverberation out of the shadows, like in the shadows, as if there's play on the shadows themselves, and not just on those shadows, but also the shadows that are cast from the pewter statuettes. You secondarily notice that the statues that are broken do not cast this reverberating shadow. Their shadows are static, both in the carvings above and the statues below.
And there are 5 broken statues and 3 bodies in the room here.
That's correct.
And so there's 7 intact statues.
That's correct.
Is anyone else seeing the abnormalities on the shadows?
Okay, well, meanwhile, as you see that, Valentina Ride, you sort of approach the bodies, or did you want to read that body?
Yeah, I want to read body in front of me, yep.
You reach in and put your hands on... they have come to release... There is an excitement in fulfilling their purpose, to release and allow new life to once more blossom and exist in the same way that it had 1,000 years ago or more. To once more release the energies into the world and into the cosmos. New energies, new life, new purpose, from the essence of dreams, the essence of their being. And you feel an ominous presence. You look over to the statues. You see the living shadows on the walls, and you get this impression of something, the statue breaking in relation to something that they did, and coming out. Something comes out of the statue into them. It moves through them, and then beyond. And then there was nothing left in, and then he is gone at that point. Whatever it was, it is no longer present at that point. Its existence terminates.
Okay. I try and share this as best I can with the people around me. Try and get everyone's attention.
At that point, I'm like, does anyone see the abnormalities with the shadows on the wall?
Yes.
Yeah, everyone. When you point it out, everyone can see it.
This is not just me. Good.
No.
That's good. Ish.
The bodies themselves, there's no signs of life or anything, even though I know they look desiccated. There's no heart, there's no breathing, there's no nothing like that.
No, there was no heartbeat, there was no breathing, there's nothing moving through. It appears that, and sort of, do you feel the body?
Yeah, I'm gonna have a go feeling. I'm gonna put some gloves on, protect the player, just to ensure information as well.
Yeah.
and sort of preliminary autopsy, but not too, detailed. Just
All right. You can tell, like anything of this size, of this type, a creature like this should have organs. And it looks like all of the organs that were once in this creature are gone.
Right.
There's space in the cavity, and that's where the skin is loose.
Yep. But
there's like skin, and there's fatty tissue, and there's muscle, but everything like in the chest, and you feel like very much like a reptile. You sort of like see this creature. It's like looking at it more closely now. You see its large head, this distended jaw. Large head, and it looks like it has the ability to distend its jaw to a degree to swallow larger things, much like a serpent. Its eyes are sunken in. Its eyeballs are gone. Its tongue is gone. You see the first few layers of its skin beneath like the dry and dead exterior has been taken away. Like all of the sensory organs of this creature and all of the vital organs of this creature have been removed from it.
But there's no sign of any cuts or tears to show how those...
No, absolutely not. And as you're closer, you sort of like, there are 3 objects that hang from this creature's belt. And you see 2 of the creatures have a similar array of objects. One is a triangular shaped object with round ridges along the bottom that could fit comfortably into the hand. The second appears to be a rod with some strange shapes on one end and some mechanical components by the looks of it, made in an unknown alloy to you, possibly platinum. And then the third is shaped almost like a knuckle duster, but with a strange crystalline membrane along the front of it.
These creatures have had all of their organs removed, yet there is no sign of any sort of entry point that would allow that to happen.
Yeah, God. Lieutenant Ride, you were trying to say something earlier. The shadows called me. You were saying?
It feels like there's some kind of sacrifice that these people have made.
Possibly to do with the statues, breaking of the statues. The warbling shadows are only for the intact statues.
Statues are a mystery to me.
Blade, though, it doesn't seem to me like there's any sort of ritual attached to this. They're just kind of splayed out there. There's though this is something. There's, of course, organ removal is a pretty long-standing ritual. You can do it without an external wound, but bodies aren't presented in any way that, to me, speaks as though it's part of a concerted ritual.
The sort of level of organ removal we're talking about here is not the brain through the nose. We're looking at some, the heart, lungs, any of those internal organs located within the stomach area.
Right, they could have been dissolved potentially, but again, that speaks to a level of that we're not seeing here, with them just kind of left, as it were, as though it's where they fell.
Then where did it go?
Can I make a spitball here, and let's step completely into the branch's sort of natural area, and please feel free to talk me down. Let's hypothetically say birthing ritual, some kind, they were drawn here. Let's look at these statues as containing some kind of living wigwam. The birthing process causes the time they come here, the birthing process breaks the statue, whatever's in there blasts through them like that goddamn ether wave gun that I never get, completely dissolves their flesh and organs and goes on to fulfill some kind of potential.
It's not unheard of animals to eat their parentage or their eggs to, be able to then take on their own life.
Julian Smith, at this point, the mention of animals sort of like makes you twig back to the statues, and your eye gets cast over to the images. In fact, you were looking at the images that didn't have the warbling shadows because it was more easy on the eye and on the sensibility to see those than to not. But the ones beneath the broken statues, and you look, looking again, you see of the 5 statues that have been broken, 2 of them have, the 2 of them that are the broken ones are of animals that you immediately recognize. So there is like a rabbit and a deer, both of which are existing animals. And the rest are all fantastical creatures that you have never seen before. There are the other 3, and it radiates from the left to the right. So there are the 2 creatures that you know, counting from the left around the circle, the rabbit, the wildebeest, 3 other creatures, 1 large winged creature, 1 strange creature which has 6 legs and these giant antlers and an extra eye in its forehead, and then another creature that has that appears to be some kind of strange bulbous shape with multiple appendages coming off of it, something you don't recognize at all. And then these continue around to the ones that are unbroken, that again continue to be stranger and stranger and stranger until the final one is so alien in its appearance that it is just simply an egg with these protrusions that come out of it that radiate, have these strange lines drawn off it from which you cannot understand what they are.
The way that these progress from what you can see here, animals that we might know, through to something entirely unknowable. It's not unheard of for Scythians, but this last one in particular, it's out of the realms for even their standards. Most of their animals were, cryptids. Take 2 animals that we know, mash them together. It's gone far beyond the realms of anything that they have. To me, it almost looks like a way of going forward, like a calendar, like a zodiac of some kind. Like there's a progression here. The ones that have been broken are the more normal ones. It's as though it's going forward to this point, to this end point.
I can't say that I like the look of this.
Are we expecting more of these lizard creatures to turn up and sacrifice to break more of these things? And did this giant energy beam and caving this thing out happen before they made their sacrifice? Or was it as a result of whatever happened here?
Could be a Darwinistic sort of cycle where it's an evolutionary sort of effect.
And where are the other 2? If we've got 3 bodies, 5 statues.
Give me a spot hidden roll, please, Susan Mitchell.
And where did the other end of this corridor go before it was blasted open?
Well, we could look at the other side of the hole, I guess.
There was nothing on the other side of the hole. No other chamber at this level, and as far down as the divers went, there were no other cave exits or other apparent exits from this channel.
Success with luck again. I'm feeling
okay.
I'm burning through it.
So you're examining around. You leave the bodies for a minute, and now your attention is drawn to these statues, and you sort of look at the broken statues, and it would appear to you, based on the scars in the rocks and the way that these things exploded, that the passage of time has smoothed the scars in the rocks native to the first 2 statues in the corridor, whereas the scars in the rock from the next 3 statues along that are broken are all fresh, like within the last few days. Or at least within the last month or so.
One.
So the first 2 statues were broken much earlier. They're quite distinctively different if you look closely at the scarring of the rock.
For how long have we had deers and rabbits?
For a very long time.
As long as you would expect for those rock scars to run smooth?
It's hard to tell. Even if you do carbon dating on a rock, it's going to carbon date to when the rock was not when the rock was affected.
Yeah, it's the sedimentary sort of thing. You know, I can detect where this rock has come from in terms of the period of time, if it's within the layers, you know, the quality of the soil, but it could have been carved at any point. It could have been moved here. It doesn't necessarily relate to that sort of thing.
My suggestion is there's not a lot of activity in this cave air-wise. There are people obviously coming and going, or creatures, but if something was to have shattered and cut the rock, for it to be worn smooth in an environment with not a great deal of natural erosion, you would expect it to be millennia.
That's true. There isn't much in terms of the water and the wind eroding it at all. So
this is a dry, cut-off environment. So unless someone's actively touching it, to the rock to slowly progress over time, arguably we're looking at around when, hypothetically, rabbits and deers decide to make an appearance on the face of our Earth. And while I think we get along with that side of the fence, I'm not sure we're going to get along with that.
And you sort of look along to the next three creatures of the second set of statues that were destroyed. There's the wildebeest with the 6 legs, the 3 eyes, and the giant horns. There's the large winged creature with the curling beak, and the strange turtle-like thing that has, it appears the closest you can. And then, of course, from there, from those next 3, the ones that are unbroken, they become stranger and stranger and stranger. Give me an occult roll, please. Anyone who cares to.
Success without luck.
Success, baby.
Actually, it's a good success.
Then I won't spend my luck.
Okay, Julian, you're like this. That last shape reminds me of the images of the depictions of Indian gods, where they are made into a round egg-like shape, and even some of the lines that are drawn on them and the lines that are radiating from them, where they have just like eyes and appendages, like just randomly allotted to that sort of egg shape, sort of roll around like this chrysalis, this holy chrysalis of a creature. And then some of the previous shapes, Susan Mitchell, the closest that you can relate them to are some of the abstract concepts of true angels from the Bible, like the wheels with the eyes and the wings and the like forms inside of them. It's kind of like sort of wheels within wheels kind of feeling.
But it is definitely religion. I mean, the rubbing smooth on the statues that we recognize, it feels like a shrine, you know, something you might touch to show reverence, or something you might touch even for luck.
Do we call it in, crate it up, take it to the British Museum's basement?
I don't
Love
think
new things.
bad start. Personally, I'm not sure I want any more of these things opened, but I'm concerned about what's just been unleashed.
I mean, if we follow the natural progression, though, would we say necessarily that deer and rabbit have been a bane on our world? I mean, evolution just kind of occurs. Maybe it's just a kind of prophecy. Maybe they're not bringing them into the world. Maybe they're just kind of forecasting.
But they're giving up their organs to do so.
I mean, you gotta break a few eggs.
Well, I would like to definitely get one of these bodies up and examine it properly within a lab-like situation. I'm sure statues themselves would also be highly valuable to look at in terms of the craftsmanship, the sort of, you know, or the tools that were used to form them. But perhaps there needs to be some sort of barrier placed up to prevent other entities getting in to create the summoning process.
I was starting to think in that direction. So if we are going to be the only ones in and out of here, then I can set up some nice surprises if we have any other overly religious feeling snake people.
I mean, I'm fine to actually just extract.
Yeah, do we have the capacity to safely transport a body with us up?
Yes, of course. I mean, you have the
crane.
You have the duffel bags, the waterproof duffel bags. There are larger ones up there. They can just send some down for you, or you can like go back. This is your first trip. You know, there's no restrictions. There's no time limit on this. You're sent to investigate unless you feel that there is, of course.
I don't have an immense sense of urgency, just concern.
Well, it depends on how recent these 3 goobers were in here.
I imagine they arrived 2 days ago with the lights. Looking at wounds, well, the lack of wounds. Looking at the fact that the skin is still fresh, the scales are still fresh, the decomposition level.
They certainly don't match the rest of the room.
Can I do a see invisible check in the room to see if there's anything like a force or some kind of naturally invisible object or force around?
Yep. So you take the time and you sort of just look around and you sort of like release your aura into the environment, and you're as you push out with your consciousness, it's immediately drawn to these 7 other statues and the power that's inside them. It's like just radiating out, and you feel them sort of looking back at you, hungering for you and your energy and your life, so that they may breathe again.
Can I do a see aura check on them?
Yes. So again, you sort of like look in and you sort of like look at them more intensely, and they are deeply powerful, deeply hungry entities. They long to exist. They do not have physical form. They do not exist in a conventional sense. They need the life force of another to leave this chamber and move on. But you feel that, and you feel as you go around the circle, this gradation of increasing level of power, increasing level of hunger, until you turn to the final object, the strange egg-like creature that floats in the patterns behind it. And you feel an absolute certainty of malevolent intelligence acknowledging your existence and staring back at you as if it is trapped, but there is something that is stopping it from escaping. As you do so, Susan Mitchell, you look to prepare the bodies, and from the hands of the one who was kneeling over, leaning down, falls out a single pewter egg-shaped object. As you trace the lines outside of the object, you see it's some kind of mechanical key or code. And upon those, all of the symbols that line up around the outsides seem to correspond with the various animalistic images that are upon the wall here. And as you feel that energy searing into you, and you hold this cryptographic key, this cipher, as it were, something that you feel might have been the tool that these creatures used to unlock the stones and allow the freedom of these creatures into the wild. We're going to end game and come back next week.
Yay.
Nice.
Just give it to you, Julian. I was going to let you look at it. I was going to trust you.
Give me the egg.